will be by Stéphane Ouaki, who will present on setting the foundations for Europe's innovation system. I will read you a very short outline of his bio, because otherwise we'll be here for the next couple of hours. Stéphane is the head of the department of the European Innovation Council in the newly established European Innovation Council and SMEs Executive Agency. In his role, he ensures effective and efficient implementation of the EIC from the emergence of new technologies having the potential to generate game-changing innovation up to the scaling up of deep tech enterprises, mainly startups and SMEs. He also chairs the investment committee of the EIC fund, and beyond the EIC, Stéphane oversees the implementation of the research, innovation, and the digitization window under the Invest EU program. Thank you.
So I'll try to be brief since I'm preventing everybody to move to lunch. So I will make a very brief presentation to present to you what the EIC is about. So this is basically the answer that Europe has tried to deploy in order to ensure that we are trying to catch up on deployment of disruptive technology and develop a one-stop shop for these breakthrough technologies that we have so many difficulties in Europe to actually deploy. We are doing this in a bottom-up approach, open to all innovators, but at the same time, we have concentrated increasingly on a number of challenges that are in the main areas where those challenges are the most evident today, where you take quantum computing, semiconductors, and the like. And we have a budget of about 10 billion euros. I don't know if you looked at the announcement that the European Commission made yesterday, but there is about 2.6 billion that the Commission proposes to add to the EIC, mostly as a kind of a growth compartment in the EIC fund. And of course, we'll see how that negotiation proceeds. So how do we actually implement the EIC? We have three funding instruments. We start from the idea at the level of the Pathfinder. This is mostly supported by grants. And this is basically early stage research for breakthrough technologies. Then we support companies we support innovators to pass the first valley of death through an instrument called Transition, when we are trying to bring them from the proof of concept to technology maturation. And then finally, we have an accelerator that is reserved for individual SMEs to start the scale-up process of those companies. And there we support them in grant, but also in equity, where we can invest up to 15 million in equity in those companies. So this is done, of course, by an entity called the EIC Fund that has been set up in 2020. We have about 4 billion euros allocated to the EIC Fund over the period. We have already made quite, I would say, a dent in implementation. As you can see, we have more than 700 companies that are in the pipeline at some stage of development there. The EIB is our investment advisor, so they are processing basically the due diligence and all the application there, and the ticket size is up to 15 million euro. So how do we select those companies? We do that through a very competitive application process. When we have thousands of applicants, very low success rate, 4 to 5%. We are using experts from all over Europe and actually the world in every one of the different fields in which we operate. And then at the end, they are being selected by a jury panel, which looks like a pitch, where the companies have to convince the jury of their, I would say, business plan and how they want to use the money that we make available to them. So here you have the logos of some of the companies we have already made an investment in. Maybe you will recognize some of these companies. They are heavily now going into the direction of health, but also, like I said, quantum, semiconductors, and so on. Now, in terms of where we are in the process, since the fund has been in existence for 3 years, we have selected about 130 companies in which we have actually invested. And as you can see, we have 1.3 billion euros committed to them and close to 450 million actually disbursed in those companies. So this is developing very, very strongly, very, very nicely. Here you have a pie chart of the portfolio split between the different sectors. We are heavily of course, oriented toward health and pharma. This is also, to a large extent, the consequence of the fact that we started the fund in the middle of the pandemic. But increasingly, we are investing in the sector you see on the side, in quantum, semiconductors, space tech, biotech, where we have very nice portfolios of companies. In quantum alone, we have 21 startups today that are supported by the EIC. Couple of examples: Pascal, quantum company, French, created by a team including the 2022 Nobel Prize Alain Aspect, who created this company. Like many actually researchers in the area of quantum, they are all developing their own startups these days. We selected them first in 2020. They closed in Series A, and then we held out to participate in the Series B, or 100 billion, where we put 20 billion. The important thing here is that 100 billion was also done with Temasek Holding, that you probably know, and Aramco Ventures as well in there. And then another one, ICI Labs, which was created in 2014. It's a company that was helped in its early stages by EIT in the energy sector. They have filed lots of patents. Then they came to the EIC in 2020 for grant funding. And then we developed potentially their case, helping them to become more investable and more attractive to private investor. And then eventually we reached the success of a 13 million round Series A that was closed in February 23. And again here, a number of corporate VCs that participated in that round. So then I will move to the co-investors. As you can see, maybe you will recognize many of them. We have developed a matchmaking platform and a wide range of activities turned towards the world of investment in order to, of course, showcase our beneficiaries and making sure that they have access to the best investors that are looking to invest in that space. And of course, those events are quite well attended, and we are reaching out to many of them, co-investors from more than 40 countries. This is, of course, an ongoing effort, and many of them, of course, are corporate VCs. Now, if we move to, and this, of course, is part of our business acceleration services in which we developed, we are trying to develop our investor outreach, but also many other activities. We bring our company to trade fairs. We also try to reach out to innovation procurers, and we are trying, of course, to address some of the challenges they face, in particular to plug the talent pool that they may be struggling to actually develop as they are very small companies. And then on the corporate, we have developed a corporate partnership program. Here you see a great quote by Jim Snabb, who is on the chairman of Siemens AG, and who has been with us since the beginning of the EIC adventure, actually advising us, since we have relied a lot on external expertise to first design the EIC and then get it off the ground at the beginning of the whole adventure. And the corporate partnership program now has been running for many, many years, and it's starting to be quite noticed. I mean, maybe many of you have been already in contact with us. You here have the companies that have been participating with us. So a large number of activities since 2017, but more importantly, a very high level of satisfaction on the part of the corporates, since quasi all of them wants to do repeat events with us. What we are doing, of course, since this event requires quite a lot of organization for us to select the right beneficiaries, is that we also now diversifying in identifying challenges with the different corporates to try to find in our portfolios of beneficiaries which ones could answer those challenges in the best way. And therefore, we develop this tailored preparation in order to ensure that those events are a success and they can actually help those corporates to find solutions, or to be able also to invest directly in those companies if they have corporate arms going there. And here you have a bit of information on what we do in terms of co-investment and monthly newsletter. And to wrap up, we have a very large number of companies, I think, growing by about 100 to 150 per year. That's what we basically evaluate per year and select for support. So the 400 or so, 700 or so companies we have in our portfolio is increasing by a factor of 150 per year. We consistently de-risk them, often with grant support, and we, of course, are ready to cooperate and co-invest with you and develop our activities in that spirit of win-win and cooperation here. What I can add, of course, this is particularly important in some of the most important sectors that we have in Europe, as the corporate R&D in Europe is still around 20% of that of the US, and it's very, very concentrated in some of the sectors like pharma, telecoms, and automotive. And of course, we are looking at ways of developing those partnerships in all the areas in which our beneficiaries are operating today. Voilà. Happy to take a few questions if you have.
Hello. I was just wondering, how did Brexit impact your investment, geographical investment criteria, and specifically whether, I guess, UK companies are still within scope? Yeah, I guess that's the short of it.
So the UK question, very good one. The UK, in the run-up to Brexit, since we were operating already for a number of years before Brexit happened, opted out of the equity part of the EIC. So we are not investing directly through the EIC fund in UK companies, but we could select companies and support them with only the grant part, and we had a number of beneficiaries in the UK. As you know, the negotiations for the association of the UK to the Horizon Europe program, of which we are part, which is the flagship program of the European Union for research and innovation, are ongoing. They have been restarted since the beginning of the year, when the overall political difficulties we had over the Northern Ireland Protocol were finally resolved. And we hope that these negotiations would conclude quickly. And of course, we are getting ready for, again, making the UK companies eligible for grant support of the EIC. But again, as of choice, the UK has decided not to opt in for the equity part of it, which means that, again, we will be only be able to support UK companies with grant support and not to provide them a possibility investment in equity.
Can you hear me okay? Oh, there we go. My name is Tom. I'm a partner with the BDC Deep Tech Fund in Canada. I just had a question. Just in terms of your program, do you allocate, is there like a specific allocations by country, like an X% in Italy, Y% in France?
No. We select our companies solely based on excellence, solely based on an evaluation that looks at if they are providing excellent science and technology with a potential to create disruptive technologies and reach a company that potentially could be a global player. Of course, that they do an impact in line with EU priorities. They do something basically useful for society. So they address the climate challenge, or they address needs in the health area, or they go into the cutting edge areas in the area of digital, as I mentioned, in quantum and so on. Some of the strategic priorities of the European Union. And of course, we need to also establish whether the companies really need our support in terms of equity, because of course, we are not there to replace the market. We are there to co-invest with the market as a bridge financier when the companies, in particular in deep tech area, lack the, I would say, capacity to attract from private VCs the cash that they need in order to grow, in particular at the beginning of the scale-up process. And many private VCs see that as too risky, especially in technologies that are trying to disrupt an existing market. So, of course, that's where our added value is. So we always co-invest with private investors. We never do it alone, in order, again, to avoid a situation in which we would pick winners and do it only from a public entity. But, of course, we never replace the market. So if a round doesn't need us, we will not participate. I mean, obviously, we'll keep the money for those rounds in which we are more needed.
Hello. My question is, how do you measure the success of your programs, and which one would you say is the most successful so far?
Well, we have so far, in all the beneficiaries we had since the beginning of the program, years ago, we have about 12 unicorns and about 200 centaurs, which is pretty amazing result. But of course, that in itself is, I would say, a reflection of the fact that we select the companies relatively well. We are trying, of course, to measure our success also by how much we contribute generally to the ecosystem. And there, of course, the corporate partnership program is a very key element here in making sure that those technologies are integrated in the right processes in the existing corporates that are partnering with us. So we have, for all these different programs that we are running, I would say, dedicated KPIs in order to measure whether the impact is there. Generally, our headline KPI is to make sure that we grow, I would say, interesting startups, interesting technologies that are potentially can grow into being global competitors and reach the level of valuation that will make them serious contenders on the world level. So this is basically how we overall measure whether the program is having the impact that it's supposed to have. Yeah. So first of all, we have our eligibility rule covers a bit more than just the EU. So we have about 45 countries in which we can operate, countries of the Western Balkans, Ukraine, Turkey, Israel are countries in which we operate. We have a big portfolio of companies in Israel, for example. Now, with the US, of course, we are agnostic as long as, of course, the presence of American investors in our companies is not meant to just take the company, bring it over to the US, and the added value and the jobs and growth will be then done out of the US. But of course, we have observed over the years, since we started this business, that there is a growing interest on the part of American VCs operating in deep tech area to go around Europe, pick up deals. This is largely due to the much lower valuation that you experience in Europe. And of course, this makes it very attractive for American VCs. And this is, of course, we have also noticed that their approach has changed over time, and they are not requiring anymore so much companies to grow, to cross the Atlantic with them. And therefore, this is something that we are actively now looking for this partnership. We've been indeed, you're right, in San Francisco at the beginning of the year, and we'll come back. So we'll bring a number of our companies together, the best companies that can be showcased to potential deep-pocketed American VCs to try to advertise the type of companies that we have in our portfolio and see whether these are good investment opportunities for those VCs.
Very well, thank you very much, Stéphane.
Thank you.